Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. If you joined us on the Amigos, you heard Dan Mandis let the cat out of the bag. I'm a Canadian. So I felt like it's only right to salute my home and native land. Here we go. Beat Knox. It's the truth. All right. I'm just kidding. It's so dumb. I don't know why I did that. Sometimes you got to feed the trolls.
Yeah, of course.
99.99 texted me. He said, "You mean you let the moose out of the tarp?" Fair.
It's about time. It's about time.
You know,
get out of hiding.
Listen, it's like this is my coming out moment.
I never thought we'd start a show with "Oh Canada."
Oh, you know what? There's a lot of things that we do on the Chris Hand Show that I never thought we would do on 99.7 WTN.
That's true.
I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. The 14th day of the 11th month of the year 2023. I did that phonetically the way Canadians do it, European style.
The way you're used to it. Yeah.
The way I did it in school growing up. I'm just kidding. I honestly think that's one of the funniest jokes that's happened. Being
I love
Canadian.
it. Yes,
it's so funny. I love you guys giving me the what now, talking all the smack about my heritage on the super text line. Super text line is here for you, 615-737-9986. Yesterday, we were talking about San Francisco. I believe San Francisco is a Chinese colony now. I could be wrong, but when the leader of China comes through, they're getting the entire area completely cleaned up. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. Jake Sullivan was asked about the meeting with Xi Jinping and Joe Biden, which is set to happen during APEC. And I thought this audio was interesting. So Jake Sullivan, he's doing the press briefing with Karine Jean-Pierre because she can only say, we're not going to comment on that from here so many times. So she needed a tag team partner. She tagged in Jake, and Jake was asked, ahead of this meeting with Xi Jinping, is President Biden going to talk about the spy balloon? This is what it sounded like.
You mentioned that you guys see this as an important meeting on Wednesday, but I'm curious, will the president, during his time with the Chinese president, try to hold China accountable for the spy balloon this year? I know obviously it seems like it was 20 years ago, but it was this year. The Chinese have said it was still a weather balloon. They said they should get the technology back. What kind of response are we going to see from the president this week on the spy balloon?
Well, as I said before, I'm going to let the president be able to sit down with President Xi and speak to him person to person, face to face, and again, not be doing diplomacy from the podium, and we can report to you afterwards, consistent with whatever is appropriate to share publicly on these issues. But I will say that President Biden took steps to take down that balloon once it was safe to do so and out of potential harm's way to civilians. We were able to recover it, to exploit it, and from our perspective, the critical thing is that because we were able to protect ourselves along the way of that path, we do not feel that there was any information gain that was problematic.
There was no information gain that was problematic. Oh, that's weird. That's strange. I mean, CNN reported back in April that the Chinese spy balloon was able to transmit information back to Beijing. NBC also reported in April the Chinese spy balloon gathered intelligence from sensitive U.S. military sites, despite the U.S. efforts to block it. Oh, weird. But nothing that was problematic. No, don't worry about it. Stop asking questions.
And so the United States, the president, is going to focus at this point on how he stands up for and protects American interests going forward across the full range of challenges in this relationship, of which this is one.
Yeah, so many challenges. Now, they're going to possibly talk about the Chinese spy balloon. I have little faith that Joe Biden is going to bring up the spy balloon when he meets with Xi Jinping. He's probably just going to ask, am I doing a good job? Am I doing everything you need? Probably how it's going to go. But they say nothing was gained from the spy balloon. I mean, the intelligence China collected, according to NBC, was mostly from electronic signals, which can be picked up from weapon systems, or include communications from base personnel. Oh yeah, it was nothing. It was nothing. Why are you still asking about that? Stop asking questions. Do you think that Joe Biden is going to ask any questions about the Chinese police stations that were caught operating in the United States of America? Probably not. Probably not. That was back in May. That was a lifetime ago. They're not going to ask about the Chinese police stations. They're not going to ask about the ones in Boston. They're not going to ask about the one in New York City or Los Angeles or Houston or San Francisco where they're meeting. Definitely not going to ask about the ones in Nebraska and Minnesota. No. Dude, it's like a lifetime ago. We're not going to ask about that. Are you kidding? Weakness from the White House. Jake Sullivan was also asked about the cleanup, the great San Francisco cleanup.
San Francisco has cleaned up their streets ahead of President Biden and President Xi's meeting. They've moved homeless to other parts of the city, cleared tent cities, and trash off the street. Is the president embarrassed that an American city needs to go through a total makeover to be presentable for his out-of-town guests?
I'm embarrassed.
The president is incredibly proud of the record that the United States will bring as host to this summit. And I went through some of it today.
I'm Jake Sullivan, and I heard your question. I'm going to answer something completely different. Thanks, Jake. Thanks.
The president is incredibly proud of the record that the United States will bring as host to this summit. And I went through some of it today. The strongest economic record of any developed country. The lowest unemployment over a sustained period in half a century, far-reaching investments in innovation, in chips, rebuilding America's infrastructure. So actually, Joe Biden thinks he is walking into the summit on the front foot and able to showcase the United States as the premier destination for investment, good job-creating investment here in the United States, all of which will be on display while he is there. And the countries of the world who are coming with a recognition that the United States is in a strong, indeed for a lot of people, an enviable economic position. And that is going to, I think, sustain him very effectively through the course of the week.
Oh, so they're showing out for the president of China. It still makes me absolutely furious that what this really showed is that we could have cleaned up these streets a long time ago. And they just didn't do it. They don't care. They don't care about the average American citizen that's living in the hellhole of San Francisco. They don't care about the kids that have to step over needles and feces in the streets of San Francisco on their way to school, on their way to playgrounds, on their way to do anything in their daily life. They don't care. They care about saving face in front of Joe Biden's boss, President Xi Jinping. That's what they care about. It's absolutely frustrating. And Jake Sullivan is grilled about it. He's literally asked, does President Biden think it's more important to impress the leader of China than the American people?
The governor, Gavin Newsom, said of the cleanup this. I know folks are saying, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming to town. That's true. Does President Biden agree it's more important to impress the leader of China than the American people that live in San Francisco and pay taxes every day?
First, I completely reject the premise of your question. But secondly, I don't know what the context of what Governor Newsom said, so I won't respond to it.
Oh, I completely reject the question. I won't even answer it. Because the answer is uncomfortable, and the answer is yes. Joe Biden absolutely cares more about the leader of China than the American people. It's on full display. It's on absolute full display. It's disgusting, honestly. Gavin Newsom was asked about it again yesterday. You know what he did? He doubled down.
Anytime you put on an event, by definition, you have people over your house, you're going to clean up the house. You have 21 world leaders, you got tens of thousands of people coming from all around the globe. What an opportunity to showcase the world's most extraordinary place, San Francisco.
Oh, we got tens of thousands of people, world leaders coming. We got to clean up. How many Americans live in San Francisco?
Thousands, millions.
Oh, they don't matter. We don't have to clean up for them.
No, apparently they don't like a clean house. So.
It's like, oh, if my mom and dad are coming over my house, I have to clean.
Yeah.
But for my own kids, like, whatever,
no,
dude.
trash it.
Who cares? Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks. This is garbage. It feels like we're a third world country, and it feels like the leadership doesn't care. Because you want to know why? Do you want to know why it feels like the leadership doesn't care? They don't care. It's my best Biden whisper. They don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about the American people, and they certainly don't care about the quality of our cities. It's crazy, dude. We have gates, metal reinforcement fences along the sidewalks in San Francisco. We have the homeless being herded out of the city to save face for Xi Jinping. But for you and your family, if you're living in San Francisco, nope, no big deal. They're pressure washing the subways. When it was just American citizens there last week, open air drug use, totally fine. Unreal. It is absolutely frustrating that this is the state of our country. They honestly care more about the leader of China than they do about the citizens. Hot garbage. Absolute hot garbage. But is it surprising? No, it's not surprising. America last under Joe Biden, and you can see it. You can see it in every facet of the country. Nothing has gotten better with Joe Biden at the helm. Nothing. I mean, the only thing that we can honestly take with a little bit of hope from all this, because there's always a silver lining, right? The only thing that gives me a little hope in all of this is that the polling is showing that Americans are waking up to this. There's a new poll out that says just 14% of Americans think Biden has made them better off as president. Another poll shows 70% believe Bidenomics has hurt them. So I think that at the end of the day, we can look at this and realize people are waking up to this. People are. The Daily Mail had this story. New poll spells out the steep economic cliff that President Joe Biden's reelection campaign is facing. 14% of voters think his policies have made them better off. Just 14%. I would like to meet those 14%. Because I'd be like, have you looked around? Where do you live? Where do you live? Have you looked around? I mean, honestly, has your life gotten better under Joe Biden? We can go down the line. Grocery prices. Yep, nope. That's no.
Credit card debt.
We're in trillions in credit card debt. Unbelievable. What about mortgage rates? Under President Trump, he got into office January 19th, 2017. Interest rates on a mortgage were 4.09%. When he left office, January 21st, 2021, they were at 2.77%. Joe Biden gets in, they're at 2.77. And on November 2nd, they are at 7.76. Are you kidding me? The swing. The absolute swing. How can you afford to buy a house under this president? Where are those 14% of Americans that think things that Biden has made them better? Where are they? I haven't met them. Have you met them? It's crazy, man. But they'll clean up San Francisco for Xi Jinping. They'll roll out the red carpet for the leader of the Communist Party of China. Sweet. Pretty sweet. Again, luckily, the polling shows that people are waking up to this. That's the only silver lining I have for you. Because if you look around, the country is just falling apart. And you can go down the line. You can go down the line. You can talk about the border. You can talk about drug use. Nobody talks about the fact that one of the leading causes of death if you're under 45 right now is fentanyl overdoses, which is just pouring across our southern border. Yeah, things are definitely working out under Joe Biden. Let's go to Gary in Madison. You have a comment on the 14%. Gary, you're next on Super Talk. What's up?
Yes, I know who the 14% are. Those are federal employees. Those are illegal immigrants. Those are college students and people who just plain hate the country. That's got to be at least 14%.
All right, Gary solved the mystery. Thanks, Gary, for the call. Gary solved the mystery.
Figured it out.
Illegal immigrants, federal employees, college students.
People who hate the country.
That's the 14%. I feel like if we were lumping all those groups together, it would be more than 14%.
100%. See what I did there?
I like it. You can tell the Chiefs didn't play last night because Mac is on one already. 9:21. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The government's out with a new inflation report and government shutdown bills to get a vote. These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver, with all the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We appreciate you and all the hard work you do, eh? Listen, we got tons to get to, including your Super Talks, your Super Texts on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We were talking about the 14% of Americans that think they're better off under Joe Biden. And we got a great call. Said it's just the illegal immigrants and the federal employees and, all that. But we are getting tons of texts on it as well, including, let's see, where was it? 9604 said, are you sure the poll doesn't say 14 people instead of 14%?
14 people.
9082 said the 14% are Democrats in Congress. 7225 said the 14% is his family. Somebody said they're the people march. They're the pro Hamas rally goers. I can't find that one. You guys are rolling in the super texts, but I appreciate you guys on the super text lines. It's a good problem to have when the two super texts are coming in so fast that I cannot find the one I was looking for.
Yeah, seriously, these are crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, here's one. And the Swifties and Chiefs fans. Thank you, 0093. Appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, dude! I saw a tweet this morning. I forget what account it was, but it was so on point. It said if Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce had a baby, it would fix the birth rate problems in our country because all of a sudden, all these 25 to 35-year-old women would say, "We got to do that too. We got to go. It's time to start making families." So
another baby boom.
Let's let's have Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have a baby, and
it's gonna happen.
Get the baby boom going. It's like with tracking American baby booms. World War II.
Yeah, exactly.
Taylor Swift and Travis
Kelce.
It's a weird world we live in. It's a weird world we live in. Rick says, I know who the 14% is. It's all of Corn Pop's crackhead hoes. So that's what he said. I didn't.
Bingo.
Listen, again, Corn Pop gets a bad name. He was just trying to defend the kids in that neighborhood from that weird lifeguard.
That's true because it's true.
That's true because it's true. Oh, geez. Listen, it's a crazy world we live in. And there's stuff coming out now about the COVID vaccine. Marjorie Taylor Greene had a hearing yesterday. Miranda Devine has an excellent piece in the New York Post about the coming reckoning for the DOJ over federal government mandates for the vaccine. And we'll cover that next right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's Ken Weaver with the news.
9:30 on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. New numbers from the Labor Department today show the rate of inflation continued to slow in the last month. Details from ABC's Elizabeth Schulze in D.C.
This new report shows the Fed is making progress in its fight against inflation. The Consumer Price Index increased 3.2% in October compared to a year ago. That's an improvement from the rate in September and is a lot better than that 9% peak in June of last year. One reason that inflation is cooling is lower gas prices. The national average is now $3.35. That's down 26 cents in just the past month.
Here in Middle Tennessee, the average price per gallon is $3.07, about a quarter cheaper than last year, according to Gas Buddy. And later today in our nation's capital, Tennessee 4th District Congressman Scott Desjardins telling WTN's Nashville's Morning News new Speaker Johnson will bring up his bill to keep the federal government from shutting down on Friday.
It's basically a capitulation, and they're calling it something different, but it's the same thing. We're just doing a continuing resolution at same funding levels to kick the can down the road and buy more time, in my opinion.
Desjardins says Johnson may suspend the rules to get a two-thirds majority with help from Democrats to get around a handful of Republican holdouts. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. and it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on? Chris Hand, Mac Morey producing, Ken Weaver in the newsroom. You on the Super Text line and the phone line, 615-737-9986. Hope you're having a fantastic morning. We're enjoying ourselves. We like to have fun. We have some stories here that we do need to get to. This one, I feel like it's one of the bigger stories. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she had a hearing yesterday on COVID vax injuries. Fascinating stuff. So, this isn't really being reported on nationally, but the local Fox affiliate in her area are reporting on it. I said Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene held a live stream Monday focusing on examining injuries allegedly caused by COVID-19 vaccinations. And they had some bangers of experts in there. Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Kimberly Bliss, they had lawyer Thomas Renz, and these people are all obviously open skeptics of the pandemic era vaccines and mask protocols and all the lockdowns and everything that came with it. Rep. Greene, she began this hearing talking about her 2022 ban from Twitter because she was sharing information about COVID vaccines, and she was talking about things that we're not supposed to talk about. Matt Gaetz was there as well, and he made the point why they were doing this basically on a live stream. This is fascinating audio from Matt Gaetz.
A reasonable person watching this hearing might wonder why this is a field hearing being chaired by Congresswoman Greene rather than a hearing held by the House or the Senate with one of our standing committees. And I believe that reason is because far too many members of those committees obtain those committee seats because they are bought and paid for by Big Pharma.
Shots fired.
And if you go look at the people who lead these positions in the House and Senate and you line up the money they get from big pharma lobbyists and big pharma PACs, it is pretty easy to see why we are here. So I believe that we are just at the beginning of following up on these 60 oversight requests sent by Senator Johnson. And that is what our committees ought to be doing. They should be going line by line through the requests that Senator Johnson and others have laid out, and we should be answering those questions. And it's deeply frustrating, although I'm very grateful to Congresswoman Greene for leading this, it is indicative of how high the hill is for us to climb to get the truth out.
And it is a high hill to climb to get the truth out. What is the truth? You're not even allowed to talk about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene said as a member of the COVID Select Committee, she hoped this hearing will offer a voice to those who have been injured by these vaccines or have lost loved ones to them. She said, while I myself am unvaccinated, I have tremendous compassion for those who trusted the government and took the vaccine. I have tremendous compassion for that, too. It was, in my eyes, one of the greatest psyops we've ever seen. The attendees of the hearing were taking questions from various Republican members. When asked to speak on the vaccines, Dr. Robert Malone argued that they were being deployed without true informed consent. He then claimed proteins found in the COVID vaccines are toxic and have ties to the laboratories in Wuhan, China. In the lawyer Thomas Renz's testimony, he pointed to his status as a lawyer, saying he would lose his license if found to be lying about the vaccinations. He then asserted the American public was experimented on by the government during the pandemic. This was a banger of a hearing. You can watch the whole thing on Marjorie Taylor Greene's Twitter account, Rep. MTG, and I suggest that you do. The lawyer in question, Thomas Renz, said, we're not even asking the basic questions. He was arguing a lack of publicly available information on the vaccines. He said the solution is transparency legislation. The other doctor that was in attendance, Kimberly Bliss, she's an obstetrician, gynecologist, and she testified that women were especially adversely affected by the vaccines, even if they themselves did not receive it. She said there were definitely changes in women's menstrual cycles and also in postmenopausal patients. Not all these women have been vaccinated, but they had been around other people who had been vaccinated. Isn't that interesting? I think that's absolutely fascinating, and I want more information about it. Also in attendance, Senator Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin, he shared statistics on the number of deaths that took place nationwide during the pandemic. He said, I don't know how anyone could take a look at our response to COVID and not think it was a miserable failure. It absolutely was a miserable failure on so many different levels. We failed our kids, we failed our small businesses, and we failed the country in general. We're still dealing with the inflation that started as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we're seeing more stories. This one's fascinating. And it's from Miranda Devine. Miranda Devine famously broke the laptop from hell story. Miranda Devine is solid. And she wrote a piece in the New York Times on Sunday, late Sunday night this was published. And she said, COVID-19 vaccine reckoning is coming for the DOJ over federal mandates. Interesting, right? In the article in the New York Post, she says the Justice Department has just posted a new jobs ad. Oh, more job creation for the Biden administration, right? It's looking for 8 new attorneys to defend the federal government in vaccine injury cases. Weird. Presumably, the hiring spree is in anticipation of a surge of COVID vaccine lawsuits, as people who were forced by the government mandates to take the jab suffered serious side effects. As a result, they tried to extract some compensation from a system that is stacked against them. And make no question about it, the system is absolutely stacked against you if you've been injured by one of these vaccines and you're trying to receive some compensation. The office is currently expanding to address workload created by an increase in cases filed under the Vaccine Act. Reads the ad posted by the torts branch of the DOJ on the USA Jobs website. The recruitment drive is coming on the heels of a little-noticed lawsuit in Louisiana last month. It was filed by 6 vaccine-injured plaintiffs against the federal government. That suit aims to overturn the legal immunity that pharmaceutical giants like Pfizer and Moderna enjoy on their COVID shots. And honestly, these vaccine companies enjoy legal immunity for all vaccines. Started back in 1986. Now, the article goes on and says, not that any of the lawyers involved expect Big Pharma to pay up, but at least if they win, it should force Congress to reform inadequate vaccine injury compensation schemes that were instituted almost 40 years ago as an alternative to suing drug companies out of existence, but that have not kept up with the times. Fascinating. So the government's getting ahead of these lawsuits. They're hiring lawyers. And it's all because of these mandates. These unconstitutional mandates. The article goes on. Meanwhile, almost 13,000 Americans who claim the COVID vaccine caused them harm or their dead loved ones adverse reactions, such as the life-threatening heart ailment, myocarditis, or the debilitating immune disorder, Guillain-Barré syndrome, remain in limbo after doing what they were told was the right thing to do. Don't you remember all the commercials? I remember the commercials. I do. I remember hearing a radio ad that said, it's like these little kids running in. Grandma, we're so happy to see you. She's like, oh, I love you. It's like, aren't you so glad to see your grandkids? See your grandkids soon. Get the COVID vaccine. Absolute garbage. It was emotional manipulation. And it was emotional manipulation whether the vaccines were 100% effective or 0% effective. It was emotional manipulation. But they'll tell you these vaccines work. We know they don't. The unaccountable, understaffed government tribunal that presides over the so-called Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, the CICP, for vaccines administered under emergency measures is a kangaroo court, says the lawsuit filed by attorney Aaron Suri, partner at the New York firm Suri & Glimstad. The CICP is akin to a Potemkin village, an elaborate facade designed to hide an undesirable reality. It is an undesirable reality. Claims are consistently lost, ignored, denied, or caught up in years-long purgatory of government bureaucracy. The compensation, if any, is neither timely nor adequate. Just 6 people have been compensated by October of this year of the more than 12,775 COVID injury claims submitted to the CICP since January 31st, 2020, when the Trump administration declared a public health emergency. I mean, I feel like we all know somebody, anecdotal at best, but we all know somebody who believes they are dealing with an adverse reaction from the COVID vaccine. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody knows somebody. It's the craziest thing, but you're not allowed to talk about it. Luckily, these lawsuits hopefully will be getting to the bottom of this. Of those 6 people that have been compensated for their vaccine injury cases, those lucky people reportedly got about $2,100. And in this economy under Joe Biden, that'll get you a round of groceries. Of the 1,800 decisions that have been made by the CICP, the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, just 72 have been found eligible for compensation. Another 1,728 have been denied. That means 96% of claims are unsuccessful, and just 14% of total claims have been adjudicated. It's crazy, man. The New York Post article goes on. There's tragic jab cases. Among the plaintiffs in this Louisiana case is Emma Berkey, who was a healthy 18-year-old Nevada high school student when she received the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine in April of 21 and suffered a devastating brain injury, which is just the craziest thing to me. We knew COVID weren't going to affect the young and healthy. We knew that. And this poor girl, 18 years old, gets a devastating brain injury from the vaccine, allegedly. Now, after 3 brain surgeries, thousands of hours of physical therapy, she still struggles to walk. She still struggles to write, and she can't care for herself, says the lawsuit. Victim advocacy group React 19, which has joined the plaintiffs, also represents Ernest Ramirez, a car wash technician in a small South Texas town who lost his only son, Ernest Jr., a healthy 16-year-old athlete who died of a heart attack 5 days after receiving his first Pfizer dose in April of 21. No big deal, just a 16-year-old dying of a heart attack. Probably a coincidence. The weeping testimony of his dad, a single father, at a congressional hearing in Washington, D.C. in November that year was it pulled on your heartstrings. His dad said, "I've raised my boy since he was a baby. Me and my son have never been apart. He was my best friend. We got the Pfizer vaccine because I thought it was the right thing to do. But it was like playing Russian roulette. My government lied to me. They said it was safe. Now I go home to an empty house. I love the hell out of my country, but I don't trust my government anymore." Ramirez, I mean, this poor guy, this dad, he couldn't even grieve in peace because back when Twitter was still controlled by the left, they censored the photo he posted of his son's coffin under the caption, "My goodbyes to my baby boy," with 3 broken heart emojis, and a GoFundMe for his son was deleted. You're not allowed to talk about it. You're just not allowed to talk about it. I mean, his tragedy was just an inconvenient truth for a government hell-bent on forcing Americans to take the jab, whether they needed it or not. And they were hell-bent on you taking the jab, whether you needed it or not. And I don't want this to seem like I'm against you if you took it. I think everybody had to make their own health decisions for themselves. But now that we've gotten some separation, I think we all need to start asking these questions about why did this happen the way it happened? People were injured by these vaccines. People were forced to get these vaccines. People were threatened to get these vaccines. You were threatened with your job. You were threatened with losing your family, your friends. So many people I know that didn't want to take it. Their family stopped inviting them over to holidays. The absolute emotional and mental manipulation that was done on a mass scale to push these vaccines out should never be done again. And I hope these lawsuits move forward, and I hope that people are held accountable for this. I pray that you weren't injured. I pray that you were one of the people that got the vaccine, and that was the end of it. I don't want people to be hurt by this, but I think we can all be honest and realize there were a lot of people out there that were hurt by these vaccines. There were a lot of people that were forced to take these under duress. There were a lot of people that weren't given informed consent, and there were a lot of people that just didn't want them, but felt they had to do it. I don't think this can any longer be called a conspiracy theory. They can scream at you and say you're an anti-vaxxer and a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, the data speaks for itself. And they wonder why just 2% of Americans have taken the latest COVID booster. Weird. I'm going to be following this story for you. I think it's a big one. I think this is, with everything going on, the news cycle has been insane, right? I still think this is probably the biggest story of my generation. I don't think we have ever seen anything like this, and I hope we never see anything like this again. And I hope that people are held accountable for it. And kudos to Miranda Devine in the New York Post for once again having a banger of an article exposing the stuff the left and the government doesn't want you to talk about. It's 9:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Better check the cupboard for some bad applesauce, and a Vanderbilt stalker has been arrested. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. First, we've got a police situation that is mucking up traffic in Rutherford County 24 westbound right after Joe B. Jackson Parkway. Looks like the right shoulder is blocked by what is reported by a police situation. Then we've got slow go in Sumner County, Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, both east and westbound for rolling roadblocks. Yeah, you better check your cupboard for some recalled applesauce pouches. Tennessee among a group of states, including Alabama and Missouri and Arkansas, where toddlers have been sickened due to lead poisoning. The illness is part of an outbreak tied to recalled pouches of fruit puree marketed to kids from the brands Wanabana Apple Cinnamon Fruit Puree, Schnucks, and Weiss Cinnamon Applesauce pouches. They were sold in stores and online. New numbers from the Labor Department today showed the rate of inflation continued to slow last month. The Consumer Price Index showing prices up 3.2% in October compared to a year ago. That figure less than analysts' expectations. This figure is important as the Federal Reserve weighs another interest rate hike, says Alexis Christoforous.
Their next meeting is in December, and most economists now believe with this report we could see the Fed hold pat once again on interest rates, because it looks like the Fed's going to achieve that soft landing that we keep talking about, which is getting inflation down to 2% without triggering a recession. And that's thanks in large part to a very strong job market right now and consumers continuing to spend.
Yeah, another big reason we're seeing this, the pullback in consumer prices, gasoline. Right now in Nashville, a suspected Vanderbilt stalker is under arrest. Channel 4 says a man arrested this morning by campus police after a student reported being followed as she walked near West End and 21st Avenue on Saturday. The student says she realized what was going on and notified security, after which the man backed off but kept watching her from afar. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
My name is Shannon Jefferson. I was cross-addicted, crack cocaine, and heroin. I OD'd 4 times. Well, 9 times in all, but in this instance, 4 times in a 2-month period. It's not a second that goes by. It's not somebody that you call or talk to. This program really helped me to get my spiritual man back. It's like I'm a man again. They taught me how to really be a man. You can help. If anybody can help the mission out and save one, that means a big deal. Because for me, it wasn't just helping my life. It affects my whole family. They feed the homeless. They give clothing. Nothing goes to waste. Everything helps when it comes to mission. I mean, words can't describe how much I feel deeply about this mission.
Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. I know, maybe you're not like me, but I do a lot of work upstairs in my house. And when it starts off the day really cold, I kick on the heat to get the chill out of the air. And then as the afternoon has been wearing on, it's been getting hot upstairs, so I kick on the AC. I'm very pampered. But you may do the same thing if your heating unit is up to par, if your HVAC system is working the way it should. If it's not working the way it should, you need to call a guy you can trust, and a guy you can trust is Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling. Efficient Heating and Cooling, they're a small company, but they offer big service and even bigger results. You can trust Jeff and his crew to do what's right, and they'll prove it time and time again. Now, if your system isn't working, if you go to kick on the heat in the morning and the AC in the afternoon right now in Middle Tennessee, you may find that one or two or both are on the fritz. Well, call a guy you can trust, Jeff Eddy. You can trust him when you're trying to make the decision to repair or replace your system. The other guys might come in. They may not know how to diagnose the problem. They may say you just need to replace the whole system because they make more money that way. That's not Jeff's style. Jeff will walk you through every option and scenario so that way you can make an informed decision. Again, the other companies, they'll just pressure you to replace the system because of money. Well, Efficient doesn't do that, but if you do need to replace your system, if repairing isn't an option, Efficient will offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net, efficienthvac.net for more, or call 615-784-4424. .05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand. We were talking about Miranda Devine, who I think is easily one of the best journalists in the country, in the world, honestly. She has this article out in the New York Post saying a COVID-19 vaccine reckoning is coming for the DOJ over federal mandates. And she cites the fact that there's a new job ad up. Yep, USA Jobs website. Is looking for 8 new attorneys to defend the federal government in vaccine injury cases because turns out many such cases. Weird. Safe and effective. Turns out they weren't very effective. And according to what we're seeing as the Justice Department is trying to hire 8 attorneys to defend the federal government in vaccine injury cases, maybe they weren't so safe. Now, again, I think that this is always going to be a personal decision between you and your doctor. I think that everybody needs to do their own risk-reward evaluation. I am not a doctor. I'm just a humble radio DJ who reads the tea leaves. I did not get vaccinated myself because I was worried that there wasn't enough data. And I thought in my age group, I wasn't at risk for, COVID complications. I'm 35. At the time, I was, 33. I wasn't as nervous that COVID was going to knock me down, long term. So I decided to wait. I'm glad I did, but I don't blame you if you got the vaccine. I totally get it. I mean, there was a full-on onslaught of what felt like propaganda. And a lot of people got it. A lot of people got hurt. A lot of people didn't get it. A lot of people got fired. Crazy times. We shouldn't let anything like this happen ever again. And I think that these lawsuits that are coming for the DOJ in these vaccine injury cases are important because it's one way to get the answers and the truth out there, because it seems like anybody that was even dissenting a little bit was banned offline and shouted down during the big push for vaccines. And I mean, you look at the super text line right now. I wish that we could share this with you guys. First, because you guys are awesome and hilarious. But there's so many texts coming in of people saying that they lost someone to the vaccine or they know somebody that was injured by the vaccine. It's all anecdotal. I understand that. But I remember during COVID, the whole push was, if it saves one life, wear a mask. If it saves one life, get a vaccine. Well, it seems like people are getting hurt by these things. I'm not a doctor, but it certainly appears that way to me, that some people were hurt. Some people had serious complications. But if it saves one life, can we get the truth out? I'm very excited about what may come of these lawsuits in vaccine injury cases. I'm very impressed with Miranda Devine's reporting in the New York Post. Because while all this was going on, every single critic of the vaccine was demonized. Miranda Devine writes in her article, with more than 650 million COVID vaccine doses administered in the U.S., the tragic side effects suffered by Emma Berkey and Ernest Ramirez Jr. might be rare, but that doesn't reduce the suffering of the victims and their families. And it goes back to what I said, if it saves one life. if it saves one life. And these people, they were censored on social media. And we learned it was at the behest of the federal government. They were demonized as anti-vaxxers. I was called an anti-vaxxer, called a conspiracy theorist. But the attorneys representing these families say it's not a conspiracy, pointing out the folly of branding his clients as anti-vaxxers when they actually took the vaccine. The people that were injured by the vaccine can't be anti-vaxxers. They took the vaccine. The attorney for these families says it's economic forces and conflicts run amok with no material monetary interest pushing back for decades. The class action and product liability attorneys have been neutered. Miranda Devine goes on. In other words, when Big Pharma gets immunity from being sued, the normal market forces that ensure a product is safe are turned on their head. It stands to reason greed might get a say. It does. Is it any wonder that just 2% of Americans have taken the latest COVID booster, according to figures released last month by HHS? Public health, people trusting the public health sector, the faith in public health has hit rock bottom. And more concerning, Miranda Devine goes on, that vaccine hesitancy has spread to life-saving childhood vaccines. The CDC reported the highest exemption rate in history. Now, when the CDC reports the highest exemption rate in history, me personally, I wonder how much of that is attributed to the COVID vax in particular, and how much of that is attributed to other vaccines. But I will say this, if you are my age or older, the average 2-year-old has gotten more vaccines in their lifetime than you have. Yep, that's just the truth. Let's even raise it up a little bit. If you're over 40, the average 2-year-old has gotten more vaccines in their life than you have. Just going by the schedule that the CDC recommends. So, when they say the CDC is reporting the highest exemption rate in history, again, that I personally think that that's just attributed to one vaccine, not all vaccines. But until they release more data, we can't be sure. They go on and say, after pushing so much disinformation about masks, lockdowns, and the COVID jab, and then imposing Soviet levels of censorship on dissenting voices, the federal government and its pet medicos, like Dr. Anthony Fauci, are entirely to blame for the collapse in public trust that will haunt us for a generation. And that is going to haunt us. The lack of public trust in the health sector in general. And these doctors were tyrants during this. I'll share a little story. So my daughter, we were like in the thick of the pandemic. I mean, they were still masking kids at schools and all that kind of stuff. And my daughter had strep throat. I knew she had strep throat. I've seen strep throat before. I have plenty of kids, and any parent out there will know. You kind of get a feel for these things. If your kid has strep throat, you know it's strep throat. So I took her to a doctor's office, one of the big ones in Murfreesboro. You probably know which one I'm talking about if you listen. And the doctor says to me, this is at the height of the pandemic. This doctor bursts in the room. First things first, we need to get a rapid COVID test. My daughter's 6 at the time. It's like, or 7. Excuse me? First of all, with all the fear propaganda going on, shouldn't a doctor's office be a safe place? Like with no fear, like you're safe here kind of thing? I looked right at the doctor. I said, can I speak to you in the hallway? And she was thrown off by it. I said, we walk out in the hallway. I said, do you really need to be pushing fear on a kindergartner who is already seeing all this stuff in the media? Do you need to burst into the door like you're George Clooney on ER and say we need a rapid COVID test right away and just scare the hell out of this little girl? Like, get it together. And then I said, we're not here for a COVID test. We're here for a strep throat test. My daughter has strep throat. I need amoxicillin, and we're leaving. She said, well, if you don't get a rapid COVID test, you guys are going to need to quarantine for 14 days. And that's non-negotiable. I said, you and what authority? I said, let me just explain to you how this relationship works. You work for me, not the other way around. I came for a specific reason. I'm here for that specific reason, a strep throat test. You have no authority to tell me that I need a quarantine. And if you're not going to give me the strep throat test, we'll leave and we'll go get it somewhere else. Long story short, we got the strep throat test. She had strep throat. We got amoxicillin. She was fine in a day. But these medical doctors were absolute tyrants during all of this. And they are to blame for the collapse in public trust that's going to haunt us for a generation. There were so many tyrants that popped up throughout all this. It's crazy. But people will look at us like, oh, you're an anti-vaxxer. No, I knew my daughter had strep throat. Get out of here. Let's go to Lindsay in Pleasant Shade. She has a comment on the vaccine. Lindsay, you're next on Super Talk. What's going on?
Good morning, Chris. I wanted to tell you that my mom is one of those kind of liberal people in North Carolina that's kind of a Kennedy liberal that doesn't pay attention to what's actually going on now. But she thinks anybody who didn't have the COVID vax is just stupid. And, like, I did have to homeschool my special child. He's got one lung and lots of issues, and I had to prove that I'd given him his vaccines. And this was years ago. And I've always given all the kids their regular mumps, measles, and stuff. But when these COVID things came out, I said, I don't feel right about this. I don't know what's in this, and nobody's getting any of this. And now I appreciated earlier you talking about all the side effects of these things that actually are true. And you couldn't convince my mom that. I might have COVID right now. I've had tested positive last week for the flu, but they didn't have any tests around. And I went back yesterday and said, I'm still dying.
Jeez.
But I've never been vaccinated, and I don't know what good it would do but to know.
Well, and they said, that was one of the things that always got me. I've never been tested for COVID. I refused the PCR test because I remember at the height of the pandemic, they said, if you test positive, go home and call us if things get worse. I'm like, well, I'm just going to skip a test. I'm going to skip a step in. I'll call you if things get worse.
Right.
So I never understood
I felt like I had to.
Yeah, no.
It was a couple of years ago at the height of it when they were bugging out, scaring your 6-year-old. My doctor walked out. We had to stay in the parking lot. And she walks out here in this, like, full looking out of the movies Zeus suit thing.
It's crazy.
With the whole mask and bonnet and everything, like a radiation suit looking thing.
I don't want you
like
to
10 feet away.
I don't want to think I'm knocking you for getting a test at all. I am not knocking you.
I needed to know at this point.
Hey, no, I totally get it.
But I never got the vaccine, and I'm afraid if I do have COVID, I don't think I'll tell my own mother because she's one of those people that are too stupid to take it. I do have to give you a quick hard time.
Give me a hard time.
Before I let you go.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And, Mackie's proud of me for doing the noose juke yesterday. That's great. But this one, you said you were supposed to say akin. This is akin to that, and you said akin.
Oh, well, gosh, that's just the Canadian in me.
That's the Canadian.
I'm sorry, Lindsay.
So look back and see. You said akin, so I had to bust your...
I'll watch the tape and see what I was talking about and go from there. Thanks, Lindsay.
All right, love you, bye.
All right, love you, bye. All right, thanks, Lindsay.
That's so great.
Let's go to Ernie in Woodbury real quick. He has a comment on the vaccine. Ernie, you're next on Super Talk. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, buddy? Appreciate you what you do every day for everybody in Middle Tennessee and all that good stuff. What I want to say is that never in the history of vaccines and all that good stuff have we ever had an issue with not only those taking it, but also many companies just sitting there offering vacations and free cars and, money.
Yeah.
Restaurants were offering free food.
Let's talk about Mayor Bill de Blasio in New York City eating French fries and a cheeseburger on TV like some goofball saying you'll get a free cheeseburger. What about Krispy Kreme, free donuts?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't understand. If it was so safe and so easy to take. Oh, well, I won't say easy to take because it was easy to take, but I would say it was so safe. That why are we offering people free things if it was such a pandemic, quote unquote? Because it was, but I think they actually, they really upped their game and made fear tactics the biggest thing when it came down to the vaccine.
Totally, and it was all manipulated on fear. I appreciate the call, Ernie, and thanks for listening. I mean, I always say to my kids, you don't need a commercial for something that's good for you. That was a big warning sign for me. I always joke with my kids, like they'll see a commercial like for some candy, Dunkaroos or something like that. Like, oh, I want those. Like, what you never see a commercial for? Broccoli. Because you don't need to advertise things that are good for you. People just get them. I don't know. When's the last time you've seen a Brussels sprouts commercial?
I just go buy it.
We just get them. It's good for you. Weird.
That's a good point.
You never see a commercial for something that's good for you. Ever.
No, I love grapes. They're great for me. I don't see commercials about them.
Never see a commercial for grapes. What about blueberries? Nothing.
Oof.
All the antioxidants in the blueberries? Solid. David and Jeffrey, I see your calls on hold. I'm going to get to you guys next. There's more to go to in this discussion. I got more. I got a stack. And we'll cover it next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. The guys at USS, they're so good, man. They can help you no matter what problem you're facing. Whether you need help with your foundation, you need it repaired. You need a sinkhole repaired? What about basement wall realignment or crawl space encapsulation? The guys at USS can do it all. And they told me when I met them that in their industry, they deal with problems that you don't know you need them until you know you need them. So if you haven't been down in your crawl space in a while, I suggest you poke your head down there. Do you see any water in your crawl space? Have you noticed wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, cracks around your foundation, sinking steps? Well, if you notice any of those things, it's time to call the guys at USS, have them check it out. They'll help you walk through every option that can fix these problems for you. They'll come up with a custom plan for your home, and they'll do it super quick. If you see these warning signs, that's your house trying to tell you something, and you got to give the guys at USS a call to assess the situation. 615-488-7855. They've been doing it since 1994. They have 25,000 satisfied customers that will back them up, so call USS today. 615-488-7855 or online, USSTN.com.
Some prices are falling, and a suspected Vanderbilt stalker under arrest. These stories and more coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're talking about this article from Miranda Devine in the New York Post. She's highlighting the fact that there's a reckoning coming for the DOJ over federal government mandates for the COVID-19 vaccine. And she points to a new jobs ad that's being posted on USA Jobs website. They're hiring attorneys to defend the federal government in vaccine injury cases. Weird. Taking your calls on all we've been talking about at 615-737-9986. Let's go to Jeffrey in Smyrna. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, Chris, you are awesome. Thanks for keeping your word and following me back on Twitter X when I followed you.
We just call it
there.
Twitter here, sir. We don't do the X stuff. but absolutely.
Okay. Well, listen, man, I moved to Murfreesboro literally the day before the COVID shutdown happened.
Okay.
And my first gig here in the area was at a assisted living facility in Murfreesboro. I will not name it, but it's under new management.
Is that the one across the street? Is that the one across the street from Walmart?
No.
No? Okay. Keep going.
It's down the street from a very big church, if that gives you
all right. Yep. 10-4.
Okay, so now everybody's going to be looking at Google Maps to try to figure it out. But anyway, the administrator there, she went complete Nazi on this whole vaccine thing. The corporation did this 5 or 6 minute video just showing body bags being filled with people and how they were carrying them out. And you've got to get this vaccine. I've got her on audio. I recorded the meeting. She went so far to say that if we questioned anything about this vaccine or if we said anything negative about it amongst the staff, we would be reprimanded for it. And
it's just crazy. Like science at its core should be questioned. Like that's the whole point of science.
You couldn't do that. Now, I did have to get tested because if anybody came down with COVID, everybody had to get tested. But I refused to get the vaccine. And even though they could not fire us, what they did was they made our working conditions very uncomfortable. I would go in for a shift. They'd tell me to turn around and go home. We don't need you today. My hours were being cut to below 20 hours a week. And so I ended up having to leave and go get another job. Because I refused to get the vaccine. My mother, and now she ain't going to hear you, but she's 81 years old today down in Texas.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Yes. She's an awesome, angelic woman, even though she's got a demonic side too. But the thing is that she refuses to get the vaccine as well. And she's like, you know what? I'm healthy. I trust God will protect me. We do have friends of the family that did get COVID and unfortunately did pass away. So I know it's a real thing, but it's just how your body reacts to it. But she's had COVID and she made it through, and she got it when she was 79 years old. So this whole vaccine, push it. I think it's trying to set the stage for things later on down the line, which I think has biblical references, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
If they can make you do that, then they can make you, because it was pretty close, Chris. You can't go out and work a job if you don't have the vaccine.
Yep, it was.
You can't go out in public.
Well,
and
we saw in France that people weren't allowed to go into grocery stores.
And that's saying that you can't buy or sell unless you have this thing.
These are Western countries that we saw this stuff in. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
There were people who were lining up wanting even more of it, and that's what blows my mind and absolutely scares me.
I'm with you, Jeffrey. Thanks for the call. And it seems like Western governments just want to sweep this thing under the rug. He mentioned his 81-year-old grandmother. My wife's grandmother was on hospice at the time. During the pandemic. And I remember my wife's aunt works in healthcare, and grandma was living with the aunt. And we went to visit, and my wife was like, I'm going to wear a mask. Like, God forbid, like, I can't have that on my conscience. And my wife's aunt said, I don't think Granny Jane's going to like you coming in there with that on. And the first thing Granny says, take that stupid mask off. All right, cool.
All right, sounds good.
Base Granny. We miss her. She was absolutely awesome. A lot of the, at least for me, that older generation that lived through the Spanish flu and lived through like actual chaos, like the Great Depression, World Wars, they're like, nah, hard pass.
Yeah.
Hard pass.
Based.
Yep. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver in the news.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories this Tuesday morning. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. New numbers from the Labor Department today show the rate of inflation slowing down last month. The Consumer Price Index showing prices up 3.2% in October compared to a year ago.
One big reason why we're seeing this pullback in consumer prices is gasoline. If you've filled up your tank anytime recently, you know that gas prices are on the way down. We've got the national average now at $3.35, 26 cents lower in just the past month. Also, we've got used car prices down 7%, a decline there also in airfares and hotels.
Right now in Middle Tennessee, the average price per gallon is $3.07, according to Gas Buddy. And in Nashville, Channel 4 says a suspected stalker is in custody. Vanderbilt police arresting a man this morning after a student reported she was being followed as she walked near the campus on Saturday. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Far too many members of those committees obtain those committee seats because they are bought and paid for by Big Pharma. And if you go look at the people who lead these positions in the House and Senate, and you line up the money they get from Big Pharma lobbyists and Big Pharma PACs, it is pretty easy to see why we are here.
That was Matt Gaetz yesterday with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was holding a hearing, which you can actually see on her Twitter page, Rep MTG. She hosted a hearing on COVID vax injuries. She said they lied to us. 1037, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We're talking about this hearing. We're also talking about this piece by Miranda Devine saying a COVID-19 vaccine reckoning is coming for the DOJ over federal mandates. And she points to the fact that the Justice Department, they're hiring attorneys. Eight attorneys to defend the federal government in vaccine injury cases. This is a crazy story. And we're taking your calls on the matter as well. Let's go to Dave on line 4. There's two Davids. David on line 4. He's been holding for a minute. Dave, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Dave?
Hey, how are you, bud?
I'm good, man.
I think you have the best background music of all the shows. I'm not going to lie, I love it.
I think so too.
No, I won't keep you long. I was going to tell you. So my aunt, however you say it, early on had to get that shot just to even go see her doctor. So she got I won't say which shot, and 8 days later at the grocery store, blood clot in her brain and keels over dead.
Oh, so sorry, dude.
So my family members, of course I wasn't involved in that, but they told me basically the doctor said it was just a coincidence. And they're like, well, one of the potential side effects is blood clots. So how is this possibly not related? And anyway, it was just the runaround, and they just kind of basically said that it was coincidence.
It's a coincidence, right? But it's so crazy to me that can be a coincidence. But, during the pandemic, if a guy died in a motorcycle crash and he tested positive for COVID, that was a COVID death. That wasn't a coincidence. It's the craziest thing.
Exactly. And one more quick one. So a doctor I know, a couple, they're both doctors. One's a pediatrician. Kind of off the record in their office, I said, so did you get the shot? And their answer was, well, I'll tell you a funny story. They hesitated because of the emergency use, and it was rushed to market, and generally it takes like 10 years to get these things approved.
Yep, that's the truth.
And they got to a point where they waited so long that their particular hospital said, you have until Friday to get one or you're terminated. So they had to make a decision. And because of what they were seeing in young men with heart issues and things like that, they knew there's no way they were putting the mRNA ones into their bodies. So they both decided to get the J&J, the Johnson & Johnson, because in their words, it was a one and done traditional type vaccine. And they basically weighed the pros and cons, and that's the direction they went. But they said there was no way they were putting that mRNA in their bodies based on what they were seeing in young men.
There were stories that doctors were some of the most vaccine hesitant during all of this.
Right, and not allowed to talk about it.
Yep, absolutely. No. It's thought crime. You can't do that. Hey, I appreciate the call, Dave, and I'm sorry about your aunt.
No problem. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, man, of course. Let's go to David on line 3, who's in Nashville. He's been holding for a minute. What's up, David? You're next on Super Talk.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Good. I love your show. It's been great.
I appreciate it, man.
Well,
Thank you.
Over this COVID stuff, I mean, where I worked at, we were hauling groceries at night, and they kept telling us we either have to get the vaccine or we got to get the vaccine or we can't come in to load our trucks. I said, okay. So I got to talking to some other people. I said, well, have you ever heard of the Nuremberg Code of 1947? I said, no. So I looked it up. I'm going, wait a minute. Oh, so I took it in there. I used that against it. And they're like, well, hey, if you can't tell me how this is going to affect me, no, I'm not taking it, period. So you can find somebody else to deliver groceries. Well, we're short driving. Not my problem.
Yeah.
There's your choices right there. I said, besides, I don't have to take the jab. I got a different cure. Well, what's that? And I started three shots of Jack Daniels nightly. Have you ever seen a drunk virus? It's worked for me. My girlfriend got it. Her son got it. I'm still healthy as a horse.
I love it. I love it.
The doctors are like, seriously? I said, well, the old days, everybody used hot toddies.
Hey, I made my wife a hot
works.
toddy the other night. Yep. She had a little bit of a cold. I made her a hot toddy. Yeah, it's
That's it.
science, right?
Yep, but I sent the Nuremberg Code to the super text line, the link that I got to where I got it at, and it's some really interesting reading on it. I'm like, well, okay, it definitely got points to it.
Definitely worth the read if you haven't read it before. Thanks for the call, David. I really appreciate it. Yep. Also, whiskey, not medical advice. That was a joke. I'm waiting for Mandis to come in here and say there's a strike on YouTube. Whoops. Let's go to Sally in Cumberland. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Sally?
Yes, hi. I just heard you mention something about not being able to go into stores in France.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that happened in New York.
Yeah, there was a 6-year-old boy that couldn't go into a pizza restaurant because he did not have his papers.
Right. Well, we lived in New York. It's one of the reasons why we got out. You couldn't go anywhere in public without a mask. And we wanted to visit our kids in Texas. And we could leave, but if we came back into the state, we would have to pay $250 each for a COVID shot and then stay off of work for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And my husband was like, that's it. Nobody's going to tell me when I can visit my grandkids around.
Amen.
So he put in a transfer and we ended up here in Tennessee. But it's been a lot worse than in a lot of the northern states than it could have been in Tennessee.
No, you're absolutely right, and thanks for the call, Sally. I really appreciate it. Up north was much worse, and my brother-in-law, his family wouldn't let him come over for Thanksgiving. They wouldn't do birthdays with him. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. They didn't vax their kids, and there was a birthday party. They blew the candles out on the cake, and his sister, who had vaccinated kids, wouldn't let them have any of the cake. It's like you're just chaotic. And there's so many stories. I have so many personal, and they're anecdotes, not necessarily evidence, but like I had a friend that was pretty high up in the Air Force, good buddy of mine. And when they mandated it, he said, I'm not taking it. He had just read up his service. And he said, listen, I already had it. And in the guidelines, it says, if you can prove a prior infection for any of the other vaccines that the military is forcing you to take, then you don't need to get them because you have immunity. That's how that stuff works. And he fought it as hard as he could. And it went all the way up to Lloyd Austin before it was denied. True story. We've talked about him coming on the show to talk about his process, but it is so long that we kind of need to wait till we get the podcast studio up and running because it would be hours, this conversation. Because what they did was just garbage. The way they treated the guys in the military, awful. awful. And I'm over it. I'm over it. Let's go to Robert in Nashville. You have a comment on the vaccine. What's going on, Robert?
Good morning, and thank you for a great program there.
Hey, man, appreciate you.
Unfortunately, I just recently read about 3 days ago that the poster child for Israel children to get the COVID vaccine has died from a blood clot in the brain.
Weird.
All right. Now, back in the beginning of the COVID thing, being in the medical area, did not trust the vaccine that they were presented because it was too new. So I resisted on the shot, and I got some kickback pretty hard. I have friends throughout the hospital that some of them have had COVID twice, and a couple of them have had it 3 times. I never did take any of the shots, period. I did do the research on the ivermectin, and I took 1 dose of it, and I'm still clean and fair, and I have no problems. By the way, I'm 77 years old.
Hey, man, God bless you, Robert. I appreciate the call, and I appreciate your story, and thank you for sharing it with us. I had a friend who works in the medical field up in Massachusetts. She's a great lady, super smart, but she's a single mom. She has 2 kids, and she felt pressure to take it. And she told me just the other day she's been dealing with all sorts of issues that she did not have before. It's anecdotal. I understand that. But how many anecdotes until we start to look around and go, okay, what really happened with this thing? Seriously. Let's go to David, who is known affectionately as my favorite Hebrew. David, you are the number 1 Hebrew in our hearts, and I welcome you to the Chris Hand Show.
How you doing, Chris? What's going on?
What's going on, man? You're next. What's up?
I just had 2 quick points. Well, the first one was when Damar Hamlin suffered that cardiac arrest that basically all of America watched on live TV. Now, are the chances that a football hit could have caused that? Yeah, but we've been playing football for hundreds of years, and I can't think of very many instances where that has happened. But he did take the jab, and you've got somebody who is in tip-top physical condition, just keeling over from a heart attack. And that just. But God, from you had certainly the leftists in the sports writer community. God help you if you mentioned a correlation between the jab and Mr. Hamlin keeling over and needing CPR on the football field.
Yeah, or what about LeBron James's son, Bronny James? He had a heart attack himself, and it's like we're not allowed to ask. We're not allowed to ask the questions.
No, and then second of all, like I remember watching this with my mouth agape. I'm kind of an Anglophile. I've always liked England and Australia, and like I kind of view
Canada.
Australia as like the southern rednecks of the Commonwealth. But they were literally beating the crap out. The Aussie cops were literally beating the crap out of people for leaving their home.
Australia was nuts. Australia was tyrannical. What they did was insane. You couldn't leave. You couldn't go like a certain number of meters outside of your home, or you would basically your cell phone would start buzzing. It's insane. It's insane.
Yep, beating people for having cigarettes. And I'm sitting here looking at this like I was astonished. Like this is a Western democracy. These people are one of our strongest military allies. I was like, is this Australia or is this Austria in the mid-30s?
I mean, listen, I always go back to what my dad told me when I was a kid. It's stuck with me so often. He said, just always keep your eyes on Europe. Because whatever's happening over there in Western countries, we're 10 years or less away from it here in America.
Indeed. Well, thanks, my friend. I just wanted to bring up those 2 points, and shalom, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Shalom, my friend. Shalom. I appreciate you. That's our favorite Hebrew, David.
Heck yeah.
You
A good guy.
You like how he's bringing up England stuff. I dropped Canada in there.
He's
just for
Canada?
Canada, of course. It's one of my faves. Let's go to Jan in Nashville. She's next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Jan, what's going on?
Hey, Chris. So here's the deal. I have never had a vaccine. I've never had not done the test, but my brother did 2 Modernas, and he's the picture of health, had a stroke, and he's not in his 50s. Woke up, couldn't talk, had the stroke, and they said, you need to exercise, you need to eat right, you need to do all that, and he's doing that. He's done that before the stroke. So he's fine now, but that's the jab.
It's, I mean, there's so many anecdotal stories like that, and I appreciate you sharing, Jan, and I'm sorry to hear about your brother. But it seems like we could just have a whole day dedicated to these stories. And like I said, everybody knows somebody, and apparently the federal government is trying to get out in front of it. As Miranda Devine reported in the New York Post, they have hired 8 new attorneys. 8 new attorneys. President Biden creating jobs, right? 8 new attorneys to defend the federal government in vaccine injury cases. It's fascinating. Fascinating. And I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg on this one. The only thing left is to figure out how to blame Trump, right? That's where we'll go next. And you know, people say, how do you rectify this with Trump? I say, you know, I think it was one of his biggest mistakes, listening to Fauci, listening to the medical experts. But he didn't mandate it on anybody. He pushed alternative cures. So there was only one president who said, you have to take it or you're fired. And that was Joe Biden. And now we're seeing his administration and DOJ scrambling to hire attorneys over these vaccine injury cases that are being brought against the federal government. Fascinating stuff. 1052 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
President Biden claims a 5-year report on climate change justifies spending $6 billion. We'll tell you about it at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I got a text here, 4978. We were talking obviously about the COVID vaccine, and somebody said you can't cure cancer in 100 years, but a COVID vaccine in 9 months? ? And I just wanted to point out Joe Biden did cure cancer. He did. He told us that himself.
If you could do anything at all, Joe, what would you do? I said I'd cure cancer. They looked at me like, why cancer? Because no one thinks we can. That's why, and we can. We'd end the cancer as we know it.
So I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want any misinformation being spread. You know what I mean? Like I'm a big facts guy. But there is other stuff to talk about today. And one of the stories that I feel like has gotten away from us, a new bat lab is coming to a city in America. Oh, yeah, we're importing more bats from across the globe to inject them with various diseases. Weird. We'll talk about it next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Right now, got some slow go in traffic, paving underway. This in Hermitage, Lebanon Pike between Central Pike and Old Hickory Boulevard. Then in Sumner County, rolling roadblock, Vietnam Veterans Boulevard eastbound, right before Hendersonville. And today, President Biden claims a 5-year report on climate change justifies spending $6 billion to fight it.
It didn't just come out of thin air. Written over 4 years, 750 authors and experts, thousands of American contributors from every single state in the nation, as well as several territories and tribes.
Yeah, this report says that in the 1980s, the U.S. experienced $1 billion disaster every 4 months on average. Today, it's one every 3 weeks, adjusted for inflation. Right now in our nation's capital, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says the House is on track to vote on a short-term spending bill this afternoon to avert a government shutdown. The bill faces opposition from some Republicans, meaning Speaker Johnson will need votes from Democrats.
When you have a small majority, it requires some things are going to have to be bipartisan. But I think these are issues that every member of Congress should agree on. We are on an unsustainable track with our debt.
Johnson plans to introduce 2 long-term spending bills in January and February, which he says gives Republicans greater leverage to negotiate spending cuts. And the latest on inflation, consumer prices rose 3.2% in October compared to a year ago. According to the Labor Department, declining gasoline prices helped keep the number down, but prices in some sectors still continued to climb. Here's Elizabeth Schulze.
Used car prices and airfares also declined last month, but overall prices for many daily essentials are still stubbornly high. The cost of rent, groceries, car insurance, and medical care were up last month. That helps explain why retailers are enticing shoppers with extended discounts and deals this holiday shopping season. Many stores are now guaranteeing that they will match the price of their competitors.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
My name is Shannon Jefferson. I was cross-addicted, crack cocaine, and heroin. I OD'd 4 times. Well, 9 times in all, but in this instance, 4 times in 2-month period. It's not a second that goes by. It's not somebody that you call or talk to. This program really helped me to get my spiritual man back. It's like I'm a man again. They taught me how to really be a man. You can help. If anybody can help the mission out and save one, that means a big deal. Because for me, it wasn't just helping my life. It affects my whole family. They feed the homeless. They give clothing. Nothing goes to waste. Everything helps with this mission. I mean, words can't describe how much I feel deeply about this mission.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so I do want to get to this story real quick. There is a new bat lab being built. Colorado, a research facility, is going to be importing bats from across the world. And they're going to then inject them with various diseases. Dude, what could go wrong? What could go wrong with that?
It sounds like a great idea.
Listen, if you're going to bring the bats in, you might as well inject them with various diseases. I mean, what's the point of bringing them in? Sorry.
Didn't know there was another way to do it.
Exactly. You could inject them before bringing them in.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's two ways to skin a cat, right? They may do that at this lab, too. There's a new proposed taxpayer-funded laboratory in Colorado that is going to be conducting experiments on dangerous diseases and import bats from around the world. It's awesome. Republican legislators are concerned about this, to say the least. They say it could spark the next global pandemic on U.S. soil. Daily Mail's been reporting about this. The project is a collaboration between Dr. Anthony Fauci's former department at the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, which was, instrumental in funding the Wuhan lab. So the NIH is partnering with Colorado State University and the Eco Health Alliance. What could go wrong? That research organization that found itself at the center of the COVID lab leak theory as well. The project is going to cost taxpayers millions of dollars. Right when we're at $33 trillion in debt, what we could spend more money on? Just souping up bat diseases. That's what we need. Sounds like a great idea. Researchers involved in this project are boasting about its potential. According to the outlet, they said the lab would increase the United States' ability to study the role of bats in disease transmission and help us become even stronger in researching emerging zoonotic pathogens. But they're going to be the ones creating the pathogens. So they're going to research the emerging pathogens that they create. Weird. Proposals show that the most transmissible pathogens in the world, such as Ebola, the Nipah virus, and COVID-19, could be studied inside this 14,000 square foot facility in Colorado. Weird. Hey, listen, Ebola bats. Put that on your bingo card for 2024. Again, construction on this has not yet started, but it's going to be completed by 2025. Sorry, maybe your 2024 bingo card is a little bit too early, but pencil it in for 2025. Ebola bats. They're saying dozens to hundreds of bats will be imported, housed, bred, and utilized in a laboratory experiments. The laboratory is designated a Biosafety Level 2, BSL-2 research center on the CSU website, according to the outlet. Senator Joni Ernst, Republican out of Iowa, sounded the alarm on the facility and told the Daily Mail, "We cannot allow any batty experiments of pandemic potential to be unleashed on our own shores." Yeah, yep. I think they should shut this one down. Shut it down. Americans have suffered enough from Fauci-funded risky research, which is why I am working to defund EcoHealth that funneled taxpayer dollars to the Chinese state-run Wuhan lab. The world cannot afford another lab leak, especially on U.S. soil or near our military bases. That was Senator Joni Ernst. She's out of Iowa, Republican. Documents obtained by the outlet Daily Mail show that scientists wanted to infect the imported bats with, again, COVID-19, Ebola, and Nipah virus. In December of 22, CSU researchers submitted a document that states, "We will infect horseshoe bats with SARS-CoV-2 and a SARS-CoV detected in these bats." Soup it up. Make it even better. Plans for the facility were initially proposed in 2019, but the project was denied funding. However, CSU has secured a $6.7 million grant for the project from the NIH in 2021. Can we stop experimenting on germs and bats? Can we just feel like this is a bad idea? Bad idea. An initial $8 million budget was planned, of which $6.7 million came from the grant, and the remaining amount will come from CSU. The budget has ballooned, though, as things do in this economy. It's now grown to $11.83 million, with CSU contributing 5 instead of its original 1.2, the outlet reports. Construction process was planned to commence in the summer of 23 and conclude a year later. However, construction hasn't started yet. And the revised anticipation commencement date is September 2025. If you need a reason to call a congressman or a senator, this is one. No bat research, please. Please, no bat research. Just a bad idea. Who keeps coming up with these ideas? Why do we have what appears to be mad scientists just running around in our government? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Also crazy. Seems like there's a lot of fights breaking out in D.C. today. This is insane. All right, so the Senate Help Committee is doing a hearing, and there's a Teamster, Sean M. O'Brien, right? He's a proud fourth-gen Teamster. He works for the unions. And he tried to start a fight with Senator Mullins, Mark Wayne Mullen, out of Oklahoma. So they're at this hearing, and Senator Mullen starts reading a tweet from this Teamster, which the tweet was threatening him, and it almost went into a full-on brawl during this Help Committee hearing until, of all people, Bernie Sanders got involved. Oh, let me turn on my audio here. This is absolutely, it's just, I mean, I'm here for it. I like it. I think it's entertaining, but it's crazy.
Like he's self-made. Sir, I wish he was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours.
Senator Mullins talking.
Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy.
That was him reading the tweet from the Teamster.
Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your
All right.
solution, everybody?
Yo, and he stood up.
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond, Mr.
Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't.
Oh my gosh, Bernie Sanders.
Bernie's trying to calm it
Bernie,
down.
can I respond, Bernie, please?
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
You can't. You can't.
You can't respond.
Please don't respond. Sit your butt down.
I have
please.
the mic.
So there's fights breaking out all over the place. That one almost
So
got
he said
physical.
stand up, and he was like, all right,
Yo, bro,
okay, let's go.
They both stood up.
Whoa. They were standing on business.
Bernie, like, dude, get out of the way. Like,
You're mad at Bernie.
I am mad at Bernie.
Let him fight.
Dude. Like, I remember a time in this country where people were getting caned in Congress and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we used to be a civilized country. Didn't Andrew Jackson, like, actually participate in a duel?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Dude, just a little fisticuffs. Get out of the way, Bernie. Can they fight?
No, you can't.
Oh, okay.
No, you can't.
All right. And that almost got physical. And then our own Tim Burchett, he said things did get physical with Kevin McCarthy. This is crazy too. It's absolute chaos on the Hill today. Kevin McCarthy allegedly attacks Tim Burchett, and I mean, I think we can all just say that Kevin McCarthy is still pretty salty that he's not Speaker of the House. Poor guy. I mean, if you were a salt miner, go hang out with Kevin McCarthy because he is upset. He attacked Tim Burchett allegedly. This is according to our boy Tim, who we're on Team Tim here. Obviously.
Of course.
It's like, duh. But this is how Tim told CNN everything went down.
Explain to us what happened with you and Kevin McCarthy.
Well, I was doing an interview with Claudia from NPR, a lovely lady, and she was asking me a question. And
she's a lovely lady, just for the record.
At that time, I got elbowed in the back, and it kind of caught me off guard because it was a clean shot to the kidneys, and I turned back, and there was Kevin.
So he's doing an interview with NPR. and he gets elbowed in the kidneys, and he turns around. There's Kevin. Kevin! Oh, my gosh. You're not speaker anymore, bro. Stop elbowing people. Tim goes on.
And I for a minute, I was kind of, what the heck just happened? And then I chased after him, of course. He's as I've stated many times, he's a bully with $17 million in a security detail.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh. He was so close to just calling him a California soy boy. You could feel it. I chased after him.
He chased him. I wonder if that is running, chasing him, or just fast walking.
Oh, my gosh. I want to hear the NPR interview now.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. Just mark it down. 11:16 on 11:14. Chris wants to listen to NPR. That's weird.
I'll go get the creamer for the latte.
All right. Perfect. Non-dairy, sir. Non-dairy. Tim Burchett goes on. There is more to this story. So he's chasing Kevin McCarthy down after being elbowed in the kidneys.
He's the type of guy that when you're a kid would throw a rock over the fence and run home and hide behind his mama's skirt. And then he just...
Yo.
The savage.
What a beast. He said he would hide behind his mama's skirt.
When you're a kid would throw a rock over the fence and run home and hide behind his mama's skirt. And then he just, he from behind, that kind of stuff. That's not the way we handle things in East Tennessee. If we have a problem with somebody, I'm going to look them in the eye and talk to them.
Okay, so he walked down the hallway, hit you with his elbow.
Yeah, you can go on Claudia's Twitter account. It pretty much, or X account. It's very accurate.
But, okay, so then just explain. So you chased him? What do you mean you chased him?
I just ran after him. I was like, what the heck? Why'd you do that? Because it was, like I said, if you've ever been hit in the kidneys, it's a little different. You don't have to hit very hard to call.
That's all we got.
And what's her name? Claudia. So I'm gonna do what Tim said.
Yeah, let's go.
Twitter account.
Hold on.
You can go on Claudia's.
Claudia from NPR. I don't know.
Claudia NPR. Okay,
I'm sure there's only one Claudia at NPR. Well, it's just gonna be like 10 of them. But yeah, Tim. Poor Tim gets elbowed in the kidneys. That's not how we do it in East Tennessee.
No, sir.
No.
You look him right in the eye.
Then
you hit him in the kidneys.
Yeah,
and run behind your mom.
Exactly. Look me in the eye before you hide behind your mom.
It just keeps getting better and better, man.
Yeah, Claudia, yeah, she gives the whole play-by-play on her Twitter.
What does she say?
She says, have never seen this on Capitol Hill. While talking to Tim Burchett after the GOP conference meeting, former Speaker McCarthy walked by with his detail, and McCarthy shoved Burchett. Burchett lunged towards me. I thought it was a joke. It was not. A chase ensued.
Oh, my God.
A chase ensued.
A chase ensued.
That's like a cop giving a press conference.
Oh, my gosh.
Burchett adds, quote, did you just see that? He asked in disbelief. I'm stunned, too.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, we got to get a link to this, Brother Mac.
Yeah, seriously. I need a play-by-play.
What's the link?
This is Claudia Grisales, Grisales.
Okay.
Grisales.
Yeah, there we go. Grisales.
I don't know if that's it.
Yeah, whatever.
Nobody cares. She's on NPR. Claudia's a non-factor in the story, but Tim Burchett calling Kevin McCarthy a soy boy who hides behind his mama.
He's the type of guy that when you're a kid would throw a rock over the fence and run home and hide behind his mama's skirt. And he just, he from behind, that kind of stuff.
Weak. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe this happened while we're on the air.
This is great.
Yo, and where are Tim's boys? Like, Tim should have a squad. Like, you never see AOC. She's got people with her. Like, nobody's elbowing AOC or Ilhan Omar.
I'm the boss.
They roll deep.
There it is. All right, I'm going to retweet it.
Oh,
on the Supertalk 99.7 WTN Twitter feed.
All right, at 99.7 WTN on Twitter. We don't call it X here.
No, sir.
No.
That's not what we do in Middle Tennessee.
No, it's not.
Dang straight.
Oh, my gosh. What a wild afternoon, boys. Tim Burchett.
And at that time, I got elbowed in the back, and it kind of caught me off guard because it was a clean shot to the kidneys. And I turned back, and there was Kevin. And I for a minute, I was kind of, what the heck just happened? And then I chased after him, of course. He's as I've stated many times, he's a bully with $17 million in a security detail. You know, he's the type of guy that when you're a kid would throw a rock over the fence and run home and hide behind his mama's skirt. And he just...
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. If you don't have a financial plan for your future, you should get one. Have you seen the economic times we live in? Inflation, interest rates, everything is insane. So you got to be able to plan for your future. And the guys to plan with, Paul Winkler and his team at Paul Winkler, Inc. Now, because Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required, I got to tell you, I'm paid every time this commercial airs, and I am. That's the truth. But that's not why I say that's why I say nice things. But it's not why I'm a client. I'm a client because Paul's team doesn't do anything on commission. This was one of the biggest selling points for me, honestly, because when they don't do anything on commission, I can be sure that when they're telling me advice for my family's future, it's for my family's future and not theirs, because nothing is done on commission. It's huge, and not a lot of the other guys do that. But with Paul and his team, nothing is done on commission. And with his team, they are big on education. He's made my financial goals more realistic by explaining what to do and why, and doing it in a way that I can understand. And the investment education they provide is backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. So do what I did. Check these guys out. Every office run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience, and you can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest. That experience equals confidence. Talk to one of his team members today. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call on his website right now, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Got some slow go out there, like Brother Jack Womack says in the morning. We got some paving that is slowing things down on Lebanon Pike between Central Pike and Old Hickory Boulevard in Hermitage. Rolling roadblocks in Sumner County, Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, right before Hendersonville, Saundersville Road, exit 8. And today, President Biden justifying spending $6 billion to fight climate change. We'll tell you about it at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You guys on the Super Text line, you make me smile. Brian texted in. He said, McCarthy's from California. I'm surprised he didn't smash Burchett's car window, take a crap on the sidewalk, and then run. Just California things, right? Just California things. Oh, my gosh. 0370 said, please play the Cheers theme song behind Burchett describing what actually happened. All right, I don't know. I don't know why. I'll do it now.
We'll figure it out.
I don't know. All right, cool. Well, I'll do that. I mean, Larry texted in. He goes, hell, there's places in East Tennessee that I don't feel safe going. With the crying, laughing emoji face. Oh, jeez. 6313 said that'll teach Tim to give an interview to NPR.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'd tune into a McCarthy Burchett square off.
Yo, can we bring back celebrity boxing?
Yes. I'm so in.
I mean, the salt that Kevin McCarthy must feel. Nobody likes you, Kevin. Go home. Poor Tim. Tim's a good guy. I mean, dude, McCarthy insulted Burchett's faith, and then he elbows him. Like, dude, what a lame. Absolute soy boy.
Yeah, behind the back, too.
Like,
come on, man.
Dude, what a goon. Speaking of goons, you like this radio segue? Speaking of goons, an arrest has been made. We've been covering this story. I just got a text from one of our friends on the Super Text line. Who said it?
I think it was Dwayne.
Was it Dwayne? I want to give him credit.
1075. Yep, Dwayne.
Dwayne brought it up. He said, Chris, you called it. An arrest has been made after ex-NHL player Adam Johnson was killed in an on-ice collision. Police in England have arrested a man in connection to the death of hockey player Adam Johnson. If you remember, Johnson was playing in the UK hockey game after his neck was cut by the skate blade of the opposing team's Matt Petgrave during an on-ice collision. But the New York Post is saying it's not yet known who has been arrested. Well, I think it's obvious, right? It would be Matt Petgrave.
I mean, that was it.
Who else would it be?
Yeah.
They're not going to arrest the guy in the pro shop that dropped the skates or something.
No.
Like, obviously, it's Matt Petgrave.
Yeah.
But yeah, an arrest has been made. If you saw that play, dude, that was absolutely a murder.
Malicious.
Absolutely.
Malicious intent.
Like, golly. So sad. And I saw videos circulating last night of that hockey team that Matt Petgrave is on. His picture showed up on the Titantron, you know, whatever, the little...
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. The
Jumbotron thing above. Yeah.
Stupid thing. And the crowd cheered for him.
For the... What?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Come on, man.
It's like, stuff like that makes me so happy we're not part of England anymore. What a bunch of losers. But, I mean, good. This guy should be arrested. Adam Johnson should not have died in such a way. And if you look at that video with the hockey player, he absolutely double pumped his leg trying to kick him. Was he trying to slit his throat and kill him? Probably not. Was he an absolute slime ball goon who was making a move to hurt somebody? Yes.
Yeah, was it even close to a hockey play? No.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a hockey play at
No,
all.
not even close.
So they've arrested someone in connection to the death of Adam Johnson. I know. Why would they even say it like that?
Come on, man.
Yeah, like the New York Post reported this like 20 minutes ago. It's in connection. Oh, you mean the guy that killed him? Okay. Jeez. I mean, is anybody else reporting it any different? Is everybody just saying in connection?
I'm curious to see the exact charges that come out and everything there.
Yeah. And Matt Petgrave got a standing ovation from fans in his first home game. So he got a standing ovation last night when his picture showed up on the Titantron or Jumbotron, whatever they are. I think Titantron's like a wrestling reference. Anyway, and now a manslaughter arrest the very next day. Police in England have made an arrest in connection to the death of Minnesota native Adam Johnson. Yeah, even Sports Illustrated is reporting it that way. In connection.
In connection. Okay.
Weird. I think we all
think
know.
we know. Yep.
I think we know what that means. And to that I say good, because he's an absolute goon. 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver in the news.
$11:30 on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And this morning in our nation's capital, President Biden announcing $6 billion going to be set aside to fight climate change.
Anyone who willfully denies the impact of climate change is condemning the American people to a very dangerous future.
Biden citing a new report, which he says comes from 750 authors and experts, thousands of American contributors from every state, territory, and tribe over the past 30 years. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, says the House on track to vote on a short-term spending bill this afternoon to avert a government shutdown. It faces opposition from some Republicans, meaning Speaker Johnson's going to need votes from Democrats.
We're not surrendering. We're fighting, but you have to be wise about choosing the fights. You got to fight the fights that you can win.
Now, the last Republican House Speaker, Mike McCarthy, was ousted. Kevin McCarthy was ousted for doing the same thing, but Johnson says he has a plan to make sure there's not a third short-term spending bill to start the new year. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind. I was talking to Matt Murphy, playing him the audio of Tim Burchett fighting with a California soy boy. And Murphy told me that Tim's going to be on his show tomorrow. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait to hear the description of that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Did I say it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 1137? My name is Chris Hand. Make sure you're following me on Twitter, Truth Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. Follow the station at 99.7 WTN. This turned into a heck of a day. We had a fight broken up by Bernie Sanders between Senator Mullins and a member of the Teamsters. Senator Mullen, sorry. And then Tim Burchett is attacked by a California soy boy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. And in the meanwhile, Biden is on his way to California for his summit with Xi Jinping. They cleaned up San Francisco, not for the residents, not for the kids that live there, not for the taxpayers. They cleaned it up for the president of China, which is just unbelievable. Remember, they care very little about you, the taxpayer. They care very much about the president of China. The mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, was asked about the Great California Cleanup. And here's what she had to say about that.
There's one question that everyone has. Why has it taken the visit of US President Biden, China's President Xi, leaders from around the world for action on all of the problems that this city has been talking about for 4 years now?
Well, just to be clear, we have been working on this now for a few years. This is not an issue that we've been sitting around waiting to solve. It's been something that San Francisco continues to work on.
Yeah, well, it actually happened overnight. Weird. Gavin Newsom doubled down when he was asked about the cleanup. This is Gavin's take.
Anytime you put on an event, by definition, you have people over your house. You're going to clean up the house. You have 21 world leaders. You got tens of thousands of people coming from all around the globe. What an opportunity to showcase the world's most extraordinary place, San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have company coming over. Got to clean up. I also keep my house clean for my kids, and the people that live in the house. We tend to keep our house clean for the people that live there also. Not just when company comes over, though Gavin Newsom doesn't see the point to keep it clean for his residents. He only cares about the president of China. Maybe he's still feeling like he's kind of under the gun after he tackled that Chinese kid while he was over in China. He said, let's clean this place up so no kids get tackled by Xi. Maybe. But they clean the city up overnight. They don't care about you. They care about the president of China. It's unbelievable. It really is. And it all happens, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about the people of San Francisco. Nobody cares about the people of L.A., really, or California in general. Remember that fire yesterday, the one that shut down the highway? I think it was Highway 10, right? I believe. It basically was a huge homeless camp underneath the highway. Yep, Interstate 10. They've gotten through their initial investigation, and they're blaming it on arson after the massive fire at the homeless encampment beneath the underpass in Los Angeles shut down the Interstate 10 indefinitely. They already know it's arson. Downtown workers have been told to stay home and telecommute or use public transport in lieu of getting into their cars, with delays forecasted to spike everywhere across Los Angeles. That is going to be chaotic. These are your big cities on Democrats. Do they care? Not until it affects them. Although maybe they don't even care when it affects them. The Secret Service had to shoot at some guys breaking into the car of Joe Biden's granddaughter yesterday. Unreal. 3 guys tried to break into the SUV. Secret Service agents had to open fire to protect her. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about it. She didn't have much to say. I know. Weird with Karine Jean-Pierre. Usually she's just a wealth of information. But no, she didn't have much to say on the Secret Service having to open fire to protect Joe Biden's granddaughter.
There's a security incident overnight with the Secret Service agent apparently fired a shot, an attempted vehicle theft and breaking into the Secret Service vehicle regarding one of the president's grandchildren. Has the president been briefed on that incident, and does he believe that the Secret Service handled that appropriately?
So for any questions about security matters, I would have to refer you to the Secret Service. Any questions referring to this, I would have to. I totally understand. This is personal information. Anything that deals with personal information, I would refer you to the Secret Service, especially as we're talking about security matters.
Yeah, so they don't want to answer any questions. They don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to talk about the big crime, the violent crime in big cities across the country. Karine Jean-Pierre says they're definitely concerned about the crime in big cities.
This year, auto thefts are way up, carjackings are way up, violent crime is way up here in D.C. A couple of members of Congress were attacked, now this overnight. How concerned is the president about the increase of crime in this city where so many government workers live?
So we are definitely concerned about what we're seeing, and not just here, across the country, obviously.
Obviously, we're concerned. Obviously, the mayor of D.C. has filed put the city into a state of emergency. Mayor Bowser. She declared a public emergency over the crime. She says it's an emergency due to juvenile crime and the opioid epidemic. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a public emergency in the district and says her office will utilize new tools to combat two critical issues plaguing the city, the opioid crisis and the rise in youth violence. Maybe if they secured the southern border, they wouldn't have to worry about the opioid crisis as much. But nonetheless, Bowser's office says the public emergency declaration will allow the D.C. government to respond more efficiently and urgently to these two problems by authorizing expedited procurement and the disbursement of funds and the activation, implementation, and coordination of mutual aid agreements between the district and federal, state, or local jurisdictions as appropriate. This is the same D.C. mayor who was huge on George Floyd, police reform, and Black Lives Matter up until 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, she flipped on police reform as crime was skyrocketing in the nation's capital. And she said that new legislation addressing crime trends, bolstering police is common sense. Oh, it's common sense now once you're seeing, the fruit of your policies. But that was 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, the mayor of D.C. said, I have a great idea on how you can track down your stolen car. Do you know what her idea was to track down stolen cars? Her idea was to hand out Apple AirTags.
Wow.
So you put a little Apple AirTag in your car, and then when it gets stolen, you know where it ends up. The stuff that people use to keep track of their luggage. This woman's all over the place. So she's handing out free Apple AirTags to residents to make it easier to track their cars if they're stolen. Nice. I mean, crime in America right now is insane. Insane. Did you see the mob of looters in Memphis? They ransacked gas stations and a FedEx truck. A mob of more than 36 suspects in Memphis vandalized, damaged, and stole more than $17,000 worth of merchandise. Local officials said the group of looters hit up an Exxon and a fill-and-go gas station, and police said it was just after 10 p.m. 30 to 40 suspects entered the Exxon, stole $2,000 in products. Close to midnight, 40 looters enter the fill-and-go gas station, causing $9,000 in damage and stealing $15,000 worth of merchandise. Unreal. And then there's a video of them hitting up a FedEx truck and ransacking it. I've seen videos of people ransacking the Amazon trucks, the FedEx trucks. I don't understand that. I just don't. Like, if you're in a, crime is crime, right? If you're in a poor neighborhood, like I can almost get the rationale behind ransacking a gas station. At least, like, I understand what they're going for, right? They're stealing cigarettes, they're stealing booze, they're stealing money, they're stealing food. Got it. When you ransack a FedEx truck or an Amazon truck, like, you don't know what you're getting. You could be getting curtain rods. Like, it doesn't make any sense that that's the crime you're going to commit to me. Does that make any sense to you? Like, if you're going to steal money, you're going to steal booze, you're going to steal, you know what you're stealing. But if you loot packages out of a FedEx truck, you could be getting, I don't know, plumbing O-rings, or you could be getting a hose for your lawn. Like, I don't understand why that's the crime you would commit. But these criminals are dumb. So maybe that's what it's all about. These people are just stupid. It's crazy. Every big city has these issues right now. Every single one. We're seeing it all over the country. And in San Francisco, they're cleaning stuff up overnight to make it seem like it's a perfect town. Apparently, China has mocked the miraculous disappearance of San Francisco's homeless ahead of the Xi Jinping visit. China's state propaganda newspaper, the Global Times, observed on Monday that Beijing's heavily censored social media outlets had flooded with comments mocking the government of San Francisco for having miraculously disappeared overnight its notoriously massive homeless population. So they do this to impress. They cleaned up San Francisco to impress China, and they become the butt of the joke. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in studio by the one and only Matt Murphy, who has an absolutely packed show today. Before we get what's coming up on your show, I wanted to bring something to your attention. Did you hear that the QAnon shaman Jacob Chansley is running for Congress?
I did.
Did you hear what he's running as?
I did not.
Okay.
I'm excited now, though.
So, word on the street is he's not going to be a MAGA Republican. He's not one of mine. He's going to be running as a libertarian. So I just wanted to point out he's on you guys now.
He's one of me?
He's one
of mine? Oh, man. Okay, I'll take him. We'll take him. We'll take him. That's cool. He paid his debt to society.
He did. What did he get, 2 years?
I don't know. It was a lot longer than he should have gotten based on some of the videos that I saw, where there were folks like walking him around, Capitol Police escorting him around the Capitol grounds. Why would he think that they wanted him there?
Seemed like he was a nice guy.
He seemed like a nice guy. He was dressed kind of funny, but
I like guys that go all in. He went all in.
Yeah, I get that. Libertarian, huh?
He's a libertarian.
You probably could have seen that one coming.
So you got a banger of a show today, my friend.
Yeah, we've got at 2:00 this afternoon. Senator Jack Johnson. He was unable to come on yesterday, but Majority Leader in the Tennessee Senate will stop by to respond to some of the accusations, and that's what they were, leveled by House Speaker Cameron Sexton this past Friday, and we followed up on those yesterday. Before that, at 1:00. So the reaction to our conversation with Cameron Sexton has reached liberal circles, and a liberal organization called the Nashville Scene did a piece about it, and I was responding on social media, and another guy got involved in it, and I'm not afraid of liberals, so I invited them on. So this fellow by the name of Justin Canoe, some of you might know him, he runs an organization called the Tennessee Holler, which is a far leftist online publication. He's going to stop by at 1:00. We'll have a nice conversation. He's a big fan of Gloria Johnson, big fan of the two Justins. We'll talk to him about that. I want to know, in his world, what the Tennessee House of Representatives would look like. Like, what type of rules are we going to have in the Tennessee House of Representatives in a liberal's mind? Like, liberals get to say whatever they want, whenever they want. You know, You can't be quiet. You can't shut them down. Anyway, so we'll have an interesting conversation. I'll ask him, how many genders there are.
2. Spoiler alert.
See, that's great. See, that is the approach. And I know you know what? You are my best friend.
We are best friends.
You are my best, because that is the one and only appropriate response. That amount of time and that answer.
Yeah, that's
0.0 seconds between question and answer, and 2.
Yeah.
That's
spoiler alert.
And let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Also, I will say, kudos to him for coming on.
Yeah, sure.
Most liberals aren't up for a conversation.
No, and he, I challenged him way back, and I said that he did not respond to the challenge, and he goes, "Wait a minute, yeah, I did." So, in fairness to him, he did. So, come on, let's bring it.
I just want to say, and I said it off air, you have been on an absolute tear lately.
Oh, you're
I absolutely dig your show, and I just keep going, dude.
I've got 3 great hours of show prep between 9 and noon. That's what makes my show better.
Is it? Was it me playing "Oh Canada" that got your show prep juices flowing when I opened the show with the Canadian theme song? Is that what it was? All right, Matt Murphy's in next. He's got a banger of a show for you. Hang out with us. News talk all day. Murphy in next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Congress looking for a short-term fix again to avert a government shutdown. Funding runs out this Friday. New GOP House Speaker Mike Johnson will introduce his bill later today, a resolution calling to extend the deadline until January, followed, he says, by 2 long-term bills with deep spending cuts. ABC's Jay O'Brien has more.
From what I've heard from Democrats, they have said they're open to voting for this $2
two-step kind of temporary funding proposal from the Speaker. It has two different funding deadlines, one in mid-January and then another in February for other government programs like defense and homeland security, etc.
Emergency funding for Israel and Ukraine on hold until a government shutdown can be averted. Inside Gaza, fierce ground battles continue between Israel and Hamas, hospitals and civilians at the center of the fighting in North Gaza. In Washington, D.C., security heightened as the March for Israel gets underway this hour. Huge crowds expected from around the country to show support for Israel and also push to free the hostages being held in Gaza. Homeland Security has classified the rally the highest designation for law enforcement. In California, authorities have outlined a timeline for when Interstate 10, a key traffic artery for Los Angeles, will be closed following the weekend blaze that damaged a 6-football field section of roadway. ABC's Alex Stone has details.
Michelle, until today, nobody knew if the 1-mile stretch of elevated freeway would have to be torn down and rebuilt or if it could just be repaired. Engineers were waiting on testing to be completed on concrete and rebar samples. Governor Gavin Newsom announcing it has been determined the section can be repaired. It does not need to be torn down, and the fix will take 3 to 5 weeks.
Relatively good news considering the alternative, a full demo, which would have been many, many months.
But that also means